Shalom, everyone, and welcome to our weekly Torah class here at Zion Messianic Jewish Congregation. We are starting a little bit delayed, and we do apologize for that. But in the meantime, you can prepare yourself to begin with the Torah Parshat. Get your Bibles ready. It's going to be in chapter 44 in the book of Genesis, starting on verse 18 through chapter 47, verse 27. And the name of the Parsha is Vayigash. Please stay tuned as we will start our broadcast here shortly. Thank you.
Well, howdy from Austin, Texas. We're deep in the heart of Texas. Hallelujah. We have a very good Bible study tonight for you. And I don't know how good my part in the Bible study is going to be, but since you came here to listen to me anyway, I guess you're going to get my point of view. Around here, we have a rule. You're welcome to your point of view, and you're welcome to mine too. So, with that said, we're going to start in Genesis chapter 44, verse 18, and the Torah Parshat's name is Vayigash. And I always like to start off with a little bit of a Hebrew study for people that have never heard of a Hebrew, let alone spoken one. Here's the first word is Vayigash. And we start off with a little rule. Right there is the letter Yud. Excuse me, I'm fighting allergies, so I may have to get my wife to get me a cough drop or something here. Vayigash it's an interesting combination of letters. The Vav at the beginning is always understood to mean the word and, the conjunction like we have in English. Vi. And then we have a Yud, which is the smallest letter of the Hebrew alphabet, and it has a little period in the middle of it. You see that up here? Yeah. Okay. So that's a Yud, or the same as the letter Y in English. That little period in its mouth there inside the Yud, that is telling us that you pronounce that letter twice. Vayigash. Vayigash. Okay? If it wasn't for that yud, then you would say Vayigash. But because it's got the little period inside of it, we know we're supposed to do a double pronunciation. That tells us that the first letter of this word is equal to or replacing a letter that got absorbed on the front of the word. Let's open it up and see the root. So the nagash is the shoresh. It's the root of the Hebrew word. So the nun is not there in front of the gash. It's a yud. And what happened to the nun? Well, the yud swallowed it up. It disappeared. So now, this is the case of the little fish swallowing the big one. Anyway, so we have Vayigash, and it's replacing the nun on the front of Nagash, and so we see that the real word is Nagash, which means to come near. And I've got it open in the dictionary over here for you. To be or come near, euphemistically like to lie with a woman, or as an enemy to attack, religiously to worship, causatively to present, and figuratively to adduce argument. Adduce means to literally intervene in an argument. And so anyway, that's the word nagash. Hebrew words are very conceptual in nature. In English, if I say the back door, everybody knows exactly and precisely what I'm saying. But in Hebrew, that could have many different kinds of meanings. And so to translate from Hebrew into English becomes problematic in a lot of situations. And so we like to take a look at some of those as we go. But Vayigash here is actually nagash, the verb to draw near to someone, or to have a relationship of some sort with the person, whether that's with sexually or with conversationally or with whatever. So we understand this word normally in the Torah to mean that someone is drawing near to someone else. Now, who is he drawing near? Elav. Elav is who is going to draw near is Yehuda. Okay, Yehuda is drawing near unto him. Let's find out who the him is. And he said, be, and that literally means in me, Adoni, my Lord, Yadaber, let me speak, nah, please. Please is, it's like imploring. Avadeka, your servant. Yaakov is putting himself in the place of a servant to him here. And he said, please, debar, a word, be'azanei, in your ears of my Lord, and don't let your anger burn against your servant. He's going to speak to you as Pharaoh. Pharaoh was, of course, the king of the greatest empire on planet Earth during that day. Now, who is he speaking to? Well, we know who's speaking. Judah is speaking, and who is he speaking to is his young brother, who's the next to the youngest in the whole family, and that's Joseph. He doesn't know it's Joseph. At this point, he's totally at a loss as to who he's speaking with. All he knows is this is the highest ranking official in Egypt besides Pharaoh. So he says, I'm speaking to you as though you're Pharaoh. So please don't get angry with me. I know you have power of life and death over me. And so please chill out. Don't let your heat rage against me. And here it even calls it burning here. Don't let burn your anger but against your servant. Next we go down to the next verse, and it says Adonai Shalah, and Shalah means literally to inquire, to put forth a question of Avodah, of his servants, our brothers. And he said, Hayesh. Now, yesh means to have, and they translated it properly here. Oftentimes it's hard to translate a Hebrew word into English, and with a little explanation you can get a little more out of it, but that one's sufficient. There is lachem, to y'all. Now, Moses was obviously from Texas. He wrote this. And he says, do y'all have of a father, ach, or a brother? And they said, Vainomer, generally speaking, they said unto Adoni, Yesh lanu av zaken. We do have a father who is old. Ve'yeled, and a male child, zikunim, of the old age. Katan, he's little, and his brother is dead. The achiv, his brother, mate, is dead. Vayivater, and he is left, and he libado, by himself, of his mother, the aviv, and his father, ochevo, his father loves him. So you said, Il avadecha, to your servants, horibdua, du'u. That's one of the ones that's a little hard to pronounce for me as a Texan. Horiduhu. Bring him down alive, unto me. V'ashima, that I may set a knee, my eyes, alev, on him. Then, v'nomer el Adoni, and you said unto my Lord, lo, you call, you cannot, the lad leave. This is where we get Yoda's talk from Star Trek. I mean, literally, there were Hebrew writers on this cast, and it's very well pronounced by the way Yoda talked on the movie, okay? And he's speaking basically in the verb-noun relationship order of Hebrew. So it's pretty interesting to know that and then watch this movie. So he could not leave his father. If he should leave the father, his father would die. So the boys are really concerned that he's going to make them bring this child all the way from his father. And you said unto your servants, except Yareh. Yareh means literally to go down. Your brother, your youngest brother with you, no tosifun. It has to do, this word has to do with counting more than anything. It's actually a repetition or a counting of turns. No more, and that's not the Hebrew word for more. No repetition or no continuance. Lirot, you will see. You will not see. Panai, my face, unless the young child is with you. So these brothers are very, very concerned. Vayihi, and it will be ki aleinu, when we came up unto your servant, my father. This is vaneged. How many of you have ever heard of the Passover Haggadah? Haggadah. Anybody? Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, this is the root word for this word, which is to relate a story. And he says, my father related to him, and then the word et here is not translated. It means literally, it's a sign of the direct object. Thank you. And then the direct object is divrei. Now we have to have an object pointer at times in Hebrew because the way Hebrew is written, it's often hard to tell what the direct object is. So they use this et up here as a sign of the direct object so that you know clearly which word is being pointed to as the object of the verbs. So, neged lo, and we told to him et divrei Adonai. So we told to him the words that you spoke to us when you sent us back home to get more grain. Vayomer Avinu. Avinu is our father. And said our father, shuvu, to go again. Shuv means literally to return. It can also mean to repent or to switch directions. And shivru, and by lanu, for us. It's a word that typically means to deal with grain. It's this is a verb, and it means to deal with grain or buy and sell. And so, shivru lanu, to us or for us. Mayat means a little, and ochel means food. Verse 26, Vayomer, and we said, lo, we cannot. Lo means not. We cannot. You call. That's the word can, not can. Laredet, to go down. Im yesh achinu, if we have our brother Hakatan, the youngest, im tanu. Now this is also the sign of the direct object, just like the other word that I pointed out to you is, I wanted to show you that. Okay, here's the sign of the direct object here. And down here, we have the sign of the direct object in front of a pronoun. So this is etanu, and eat with that little period underneath the aleph here at the beginning of the word. Come on, you can work with me. Work with me. Silly. Okay, this aleph at the front of this has a hirik underneath it. That's a vowel point that sounds like the E, like feet, the two E's in feet. So if it's got that hirik underneath the aleph when it's a sign of the direct object, eat, then that becomes translated as with us. If it has a holum at the top, see if I've got an aleph with a holum there. I don't see one on this page. But the holum is a little dot mark that's at the top of the letter instead of at the bottom, as in this case. Then it's going to be to them. So if he threw them in jail, he would have done that to them, and so the little vowel pointing would be different, and it would be at the top to indicate it was done to them. So otanu, the nu on the end is from the same root as anaknu, which is we are. So with us would be the translation. There's really not any other way to translate it, but I just thought I'd show you a little bit of stuff here that might be of interest. Vayaradnu, and then we will go down because not you call, we may not liriot, to see, panai, your face, hamish, the man's our brother, our youngest, except he is be with us. Okay, so this one's a little hodgepodgey to translate, so I'll just leave it in the way they did it. And vayomer avideka, and said your servant Avi, my father, Elenu, unto us. Nu here on the end is us. Atam, Yal, Yal, Yada, Tem. And again, y'all know, this Tam on the end is y'all again. He really takes them with thick accents, okay? That Shanaim, that two, Yelada Li, and Yelada Li, that means I had two sons were unto me, Ishti, from my wife. I don't know which way this thing went, but yeah, there it is. So, two sons came from my wife, and that was his beloved wife, Rachel. Leah, he didn't like her as much as Rachel, but he loved her okay, but it was just that she wasn't the one he chose for his bride. Then he got cheated by Laban, and he ended up married to Leah, and then he got angry, and they were about to get into war. It was a long story. Anyway, so, and went one, ahad, the one, me'iti, from me, vayomer, and said, surely, tarof, treif is the root there, and that means torn. And here it is again, torof. He's torn into pieces, and not ra'ito, I did not see him ad heina, until heina is like, behold, where is he? Okay. Verse 29. Is this interesting? Am I holding your interest okay? Okay.
I'm confused, but it's
Well, I'm just showing off, show you how good of a Hebrew teacher I am. Okay.
I'm sorry, but I'm gonna have to turn this fan down. It's
Oh, I thought it was turned down and somebody turned it on the wrong click.
One more time, Shane.
It wasn't giving me a problem.
I know, but somebody else is having a problem with it.
I'm having a problem. Serious problem.
Do you need a blanket, Libby?
No, it's bothering my sinuses big time.
Oh, okay.
Stirring up something, I don't know what. Ul chakti. Chach means to take. And and y'all take also et hazeh, this son, in other words, ma'im, from me, panai, from my face, and if something happens to him, v'karahu, ason, some kind of mischief, and shall bring down, and there's yared again, the verb to go down. Y'all shall bring down my gray hairs, shevate, well, sevate, sebate, bara'ah, in bitterness or evil, shaloah, to the grave. So if you take this one and something happens to him, that's going to kill me. I'm not going to be able to take it. V'atah, this is, there are two words that sound the same. Atah here, and another one that's spelled with the ayin at the beginning instead of the aleph at the beginning instead of ayin. And it changes it from you, male, to a time-based word, now. Now, therefore, when I come to avodecha, avi, and the v'hanaar, and the lad, einenu, is not with us, itanu. There's that direct object again with the e in front of it. My finger is not cooperating very well. Anyway, but itanu here would be if the lad is not with us. Itanu would be with him, and otanu would be to him if he was cut or hurt somehow. But nafsho, and his life is kashura, is kashura, bound up in benafsho, in the child's life. The father is not going to take this well. But they brought him with them because of Joseph, i.e. Pharaoh, in their eyes, his instructions. And it shall be, kiroto, when he sees, ki ain, is the lad is not hanaar v'mat, that he will die, the father will die. The horidu, and that's to take him down again, avdecha, your servant, sebat, the gray hairs, avdecha, of your servant, avinu, our father, beyagon, in sorrow, to the grave. Sholah. Then it goes on, for your servant came as surety for the lad. Now, what I'm going to do at this point, I think I've showed us sufficiently that you know what I'm talking about, so we're going to go to the Bible in the English and just go ahead and do some more studying, and if we need to come back to look at a work, we'll do it. it says, for your servant himself guaranteed his safety. And I said, if I fail to bring him back to you, then I will bear the blame for my father forever. Therefore I beg you, let your servant stay as a slave unto my Lord instead of the boy, and let the boy go up with his brothers. For how can I go to my father if the boy isn't with me? I couldn't bear to see my father so overwhelmed by anguish. Tell me, idiomatically speaking, what does this story sound like to you?
Payback.
Partially payback, but what else?
Testing for sincerity.
Okay, what else? Anybody?
Somebody says me.
Do you know of a New Testament story that this might sound like? What about Yeshua, Jesus, and his brothers? Okay. Joseph is a metaphor, a idiomatic stereotype of the Messiah. He's going to be rejected by his brethren and cast into a pit and sold into slavery and carried off down into Egypt. And his father's going to think he's totally dead, and he is dead in a sense. And then he gets thrown into the deepest dungeon in Pharaoh's dungeon, and then he stays there for how many years? I think it was like 4 or 5 years. And then the butcher and the baker and the...
He was in there with the butcher and the baker for 12 years.
12 years, And then the baker and the wine server got thrown into the dungeon, and he interpreted their dreams, and then he said, remember me when you are out serving Pharaoh. So at the end, the guy remembered. Yes, Larry?
Even though it says later on that, thank you, Shane. Even though it says later on, he was 30 years old when he went before Pharaoh. So if he was thrown in the dungeon 12 years prior, that would make him how old when he was thrown in the dungeon?
He was 17 when he was sold.
Yeah.
So he was very young when he went to serve.
Okay. So we can see that he spent a lot of time there in prison, and his dreams told him his brothers were going to bow down and do obeisance to him. Remember that? He had a dream, and he told his brothers, and they got angry, and that's why they wanted to kill him. And his father even said, what are you saying? Are you saying that your mother and I are both going to bow down to you and worship you as a king? So here he is, and these guys are bound down on their face, afraid to say anything to him, and because he is representing Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. So they still don't know that he's their brother. But in chapter 45, he starts working with them, and Joseph could no longer, verse 1, could no longer control his feelings in front of his attendants, and he cried, everybody away from me! So no one else was with him when Joseph revealed to his brothers who he was.
But he wept so loud that even his servants could hear him.
Even the Egyptians heard. Verse 2. Joseph said to his brothers, I'm Joseph. It is true that my father is it true that my father is still alive? And his brothers couldn't answer him. They were so dumbfounded at seeing him. I can understand that. I had a story of my own to tell about that.
What you're saying. Who had been in his 40s by now?
No.
Yes, because 7 good years had already gone by, and then the famine started. So he was already 30 when he came before Pharaoh.
He was 30 when he came for Pharaoh.
7 years went by. 7 good years they already went by, and this is the time of the famine.
So
He was in his 40s.
this is the second year of the famine.
Yep.
Is it the second year?
It's the second
Yeah.
year of the
He
famine.
said it was
39,
earlier.
He'd be 39.
Right.
Okay.
So anyway, he wept aloud. Joseph said to his brothers, I'm Joseph. Is it true my father is still alive? His brothers couldn't even answer him. They were so dumbfounded at seeing him. And Joseph said to his brothers, please come closer. And they came closer. And he said, I am Joseph, your brother, who you sold into Egypt. But don't be sad that you sold me into slavery here or angry at yourselves, because it was God who sent me ahead of you to preserve life.
Now, I was always been curious, or actually I am curious now. What does it say in Hebrew? So instead of the word sad, what is the word it's using in Hebrew? I think because here it's not sad, it's something else. And it's the one thing I would...
Now, therefore, al te'atzvo, and that's the Hebrew word. Now let's look at the
Now,
Shorish.
why would they be grieved? Oh, yeah, because there was a rule or decree at that time. If you sold your brother into slavery, you got the death penalty.
Don't worry, don't be in pain, don't be
Yep.
angry. Okay?
Why would they worry? Because technically their lives would be, at this point.
Their lives would very easily be forfeited.
And justified.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Don't be sad, don't be worried, don't be grieved that you sold me to slavery here, or angry at yourselves, because it was God who sent me ahead of you to preserve life. And the famine has been over the land for the last 2 years. There they are. They're 2 years into the famine, and they still got 3 more to go.
5.
Oh, yeah,
That's not what
3,
it says,
5. Yeah, they got 5 more to go.
Rabbi, that's not what it says.
It's the allergies that's stopping up my brain.
Rabbi. I might want to explain that to these two.
Yeah, whenever he says something not...
I said I was good at math. We'll scratch that statement.
Rabbi, that's not what it says.
So God sent me ahead of you to ensure that you have descendants on the earth and to save your lives in a great deliverance. So it was not you who sent me here, but God. And he has made me a father to Pharaoh, the Lord of all his households, and a ruler over the whole land of Egypt. Then he says, rush, hurry, go up to my father. Tell him, here's what your son Joseph says. God has made me Lord of all of Egypt. Come down to me, don't delay. You will live in the land of Goshen and be near me, you and your children. What an awesome thing. And your grandchildren, and the flocks and herds and everything you own. I will provide for you there so that you won't become poverty-stricken, you and your household and all that you have, because 5 years of famine are yet to come. He has better math than I did. Here, your own eyes see, and the eyes of my brother Benjamin, that it is my own mouth speaking to you. Tell my father how honored I am in Egypt and everything you have seen, and quickly bring my father down here. Then he embraced his brother Benjamin and Benjamin wept on his neck and kissed him, and all his brothers wept on them. After that, his brothers talked with him, and the report of this reached Pharaoh's house. Joseph's brothers have come, and Pharaoh and his servants were pleased. Pharaoh said to Joseph, tell your brothers, here is what you are to do. Load up your animals, go to the land of Canaan, take your father and your families, and come back to me. I will give you good property in Egypt, and you will eat the fat of the land. Hallelujah. Things turned around for him, didn't they? From the bottom of the Pharaoh's dungeon to the top of the country. Overnight, just about. Moreover, this is an order. Do this. Take wagons from the land of Egypt to carry your little ones and your wives, and bring your father and come. Don't worry about your stuff, because everything good in the land of Egypt is yours. The sons of Israel acted accordingly. And Joseph gave them wagons as Pharaoh had ordered, and gave them provisions for the journey. To each of them he gave a set of new clothes, but Benjamin he gave 7.5 pounds of silver, 5 sets of new clothes. Likewise to his father he sent 10 donkeys loaded with the finest goods Egypt could produce. as well as 10 female donkeys loaded with grain, bread, and food for his father to eat on the return journey. Thus he sent his brothers on their way. And they left, and he said unto them, Don't quarrel among yourselves while you're traveling. So they went up out of Egypt and entered the land of Canaan and came to Yaakov their father. And they told him, Joseph is still alive, and he is ruler over the whole land of Egypt. He was stunned at the news. He couldn't believe them.
Dad, you want to sit down? You want to, instead of just coming in and
Yeah,
That
exactly.
was not their thing.
So, but it was only when he saw the wagons which Joseph had sent to carry him that the spirit of Yaakov their father began to revive. Amazing. Israel said, Enough, my sons. Joseph is still alive. I must go and see him before I die. Israel. Notice the switching back and forth between Joseph and Israel. When we're talking about Joseph, the man who wrestled with men, then they use the name
You're saying
Joseph. It's supposed to be Yaakov, yeah. So Yaakov is the father, and when they say Yaakov, he's the man who wrestled with men. So it's showing his human side, his human weakness here. But when it switches to Israel, in verse 1 of 46, Israel took everything he owned with him, and on his journey he arrived at Beersheba. So here he is journeying, not as a weak, beaten up Yaakov, but he is traveling as is Israel. Yeah, he's representing the kingdom of heaven now. And they arrived at Beersheba. That's the well of the oath where Abraham had struck a deal with the king when the king's men were all covering up every well they dug. And finally he called the king down for a meeting, and they made an oath to one another that they would be decimated essentially if they broke this covenant.
Question.
Okay.
Isn't that what's happening now in modern times?
Yeah.
They broke the covenant. Now
Yeah.
we got everything going on in the Middle East as it is.
Yeah. It's not looking so good for the Middle East, is it? So he arrived at Beersheba and offered sacrifices to the God of his father Yitzhak. Now, Yaakov had been to this place before, and that's where he first saw the angels ascending and descending in the mountain. And it's very close to it anyway. So he arrived at Beersheba, offered sacrifice to the God of Yitzhak. In a vision at night, God called to Israel. He called him, Yaakov, Yaakov, and he answered, Here I am, Hineni. He said, I am God, the God of your father. Don't be afraid to go down to Egypt. It is there that I will make you a great nation. Not only will I go down with you to Egypt, but I will also bring you back again after Joseph, and afterwards Joseph had closed.
Can you raise that up a little so we can see it?
My brain is racing ahead of my words here. Not only will I go down with you to Egypt, but I will also bring you back here again after Joseph has closed your eyes. In other words, you're going to die in Egypt, but the rest of the family's coming back. So Yaakov left Beersheba. The sons of Israel brought Yaakov their father to the little ones, their wives in the wagons Pharaoh had sent to carry them. And they took their cattle with their possessions which they had acquired in the land of Canaan and arrived in Egypt. Yaakov and all of his descendants with him, and his sons, grandsons, daughters, granddaughters, and all of his descendants he brought with him to Egypt. These are the names of the Israelites, children who came into Egypt. Now, I don't know how long I want to go tonight because of the way I'm feeling. Okay, so I may want to close this study down a little early, but typically we love to go through these names and look at the root meanings of the names because it adds such amazing insight into the story.
There are quite a few.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, that sure is.
On the
We'll
other
just-
hand,
Uh-huh.
we established the difference in numbers here to the difference in numbers in last year when we read this Torah Parshat. And Acts 7, 9 through 16, we found there was some discrepancy between the numbers, and then started paying attention to the fact that, oh, wait a second. The way this is presented here is also the same way they present it somewhat in Numbers, where they count husband and wife as one. They don't list the wives. They don't list the names. They're not included in the count. They're counted already as one with their husband, so they're included in the number. So even though it says 75 here, you have to account for the females. In this case, who was raped in 2 or 3
Right.
previous. Dinah. Thank you. Gosh, oh my God. Because she's not listed here, but if you included her in the numbers on the other one, and it's important that we understand that, because we found that there's relevance in that going forwards in the Exodus as we get into the bloodline Moshe came from.
Was there any reference last time to why they listed the sons of Simeon, Shaul, the son of a Canaanitish woman?
There is a that is something we also established. The relevance of bringing that one random fact up
Yeah.
is because you have to take into context what that means. That was a big no-no.
Rabbi?
Yeah.
Rabbi John mentions a little bit about this. In the Midrash, it says that Dinah was Shimron's cousin. Sure, he says, sure, so they got married, but why would Moshe not mention her by name? That was a question. But he mentions a little bit about it in the Midrash.
Okay. And is there a question I'm supposed to answer?
Well, there was a question after that. Said, so said, sure, so they got married, but why would Moshe not mention by her name?
Well, that's because when you're doing lineages, they tend to take shortcuts and mention the head of the home, who would be the husband, and they would assume that the wife was with him.
Like I had said earlier, that the wives get absorbed. You have to understand, Hebrew mindset is man and wife are one. The husband's the head, the wife's absorbed, they're one. So
And
the
if you
husband's
don't agree, you better
represented
duck when that rolling pin comes at your head. I couldn't resist. You just left that one wide open, Shane. Okay, so typically we go through these, and I'll just break a few of these names down just so you can see what I mean about there being some insight in there about the nature of the players in these stories. First, these are the names of Israel's children who came to Egypt. Yaakov. And Yaakov is the firstborn son. No, Reuben, right. Yaakov is the brother of Esau. And so they don't mention Esau because he's in this party of the blessed children of Yaakov. So then, and his son. So Reuben was Yaakov's firstborn son, and it means literally to see a son. That word there means literally to see a son. I think I'll go back to the interlinear for this portion. It's 46, verse 8. Let me just skip on down to chapter 46, verse 8. And these are the Shemot, the names, Bnei Israel, the children of Israel, Habayim, which were caused to come Mitzrayimah, and the Egypt is a pronoun. When we're moving towards the pronoun, it takes on a feminine characteristic, and when we're moving away from it, it takes on a masculine characteristic. So here we see Mitzrayimah, and that's a feminine form of Egypt. So your direction is heading there towards it. And Yaakov and his sons, the firstborn of Yaakov's is Reuben. And again, that means literally to see a son. You see a son. So we've got ways to handle the translating and the roots that make it a little easier for us. And the sons of Reuben, Hanuk means initiated.
What in the world is that word? Antediluvian patriarch?
Antediluvian, that's before the flood. Okay? And I'm trying to close this without a pointed finger, and it keeps opening up the wrong thing here. Yeah, there we go. Hanuk. Phalu is from, it means distinguished, to distinguish. And it done it again. And I'm just going to have to outsmart it. There it is. And then Chetzron, the Chetzron. It means courtyard. And the court is where the judges sit. And then Carmi is, I believe it's grapes or something like that. It means gardener.
Name of three Israelites.
Garden or vineyard. Okay. And so that's Carmi. And again, each one of these definitions that you look up like this will help to define the nature of the person who is in this party. If you imagine someone who is a gardener and deals with grapes a lot, you speak of them as a vine dresser, and they have a certain way about them that's different than other people. And the same thing goes for someone who tends lambs or cows or donkeys or whatever. Whatever they're doing, it shapes their nature, so that then when you read the Bible and you see these names, if you look up the root meanings, it just really embellishes the story. And it's very accurate. So anyway, that's the nature of the way we like to study the names. It gives a lot more interest to the reading of the scriptures. So the sons of Gershon, the sons of Judah, the sons of Zerah, Peretz, the sons of Judah, and the sons of Zebulun. All of these are really interesting to look at from a historical perspective and seeing the nature of these guys. And then we have the story of Dinah and how that she was defiled by these guys in the land, and her brothers went to her defense and, told them that the only way they were going to get to be married to the females of Israel is to be circumcised. So they had them all circumcised, and then 3 days later, when their circumcision was the sorest possible, they went out after them and killed them all, and really just took out their wrath on them for what they had done to their sister. So
Don't mess with Israelite women.
Even if your name is Barack Obama, you'll get in trouble.
So again, again, rephrasing my mom's question. My mom's question was the relevance of listing this detail that Saul was the son of a Canaanite woman. What is the relevance of that in the context of this?
Well, the
Shaul.
Well, the ones who were to be spiritually looked upon as the spiritual guides of Israel, they weren't allowed to marry the Canaanite women. And it's because they were ordinary women from ordinary bloodlines, and God was preparing Israel to bring forth the Messiah. And so because of that, he wanted these folks from Israel who were being disciplined and self-disciplined to be walking in righteousness or the way of God, so that it would shape their genetic coding. Because when you believe in God, he does change your genetic coding, believe it or not. And it really is amazing. I don't know if you can do a genetic test these days and spot it, but I can tell you this, that when someone comes to know the Messiah, it literally changes them into a eternally living being. It's really an amazing thing.
Thank you. Does that answer your question, Mom?
In the Middle East, one of the tests. Don't worry about it. In the Middle East, one of the tests to determine if a Muslim has converted is it shows up in a blood test. And that's something we just recently found out about that they were doing.
Well, I'll tell you what, the blood of Yeshua will certainly change you. Make you become more and more aware of sin and not wanting to do that anymore. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
We have a couple questions from the chat room.
All right, well, lay them on me. Your chance to stump the rabbi.
Okay, this is from Mr. Green.
Shalom, Mr. Jeffrey Green. How are you?
Is it possible that Romans 8:23 apply to the life of Joseph? And we know that all things work together for the good of those who love Yahweh and are called according to his purpose.
All right, give me the reference again.
Romans 8:28, excuse me.
8:28.
Yes.
Furthermore, we know that God causes everything. Furthermore, we know that God causes everything to work together for the good of those who love God and are called in accordance with his purpose.
Yes, that's what he just quoted. So, Rabbi, can that be applied to Joseph's life?
Well, it applies to everybody's life.
Mhm.
Whoever is called according to God's purpose. There are many called, few chosen. How do you get chosen? By doing what
By
God
doing.
calls you to do. That's how you get chosen.
That's right. And so later he did reply that Joseph's part was to be obedient.
That's right.
Here's one more question from him. What we can learn from Joseph's story is it's a comment actually, excuse me. What we can learn from Joseph's story is to believe that Yahweh is in control of our lives, even when things seem to be going terribly wrong.
That's right. Well, there's a story of a rabbi. It was probably back, I'm going to say probably sometime around 1400s. And it was a time of a lot of bad stuff going on, a lot of banditos and thieves, hoodlums, and they were pillaging and just killing people for no reason whatsoever. And this rabbi had been looking for work in the town that he lived in for so long that he had just basically given up on trying to find work there, and loaded up his donkey with his bedroll and his scrolls and his lantern, and he got on his donkey and he rides him off into the sunset. And he checked on every place where he found a house or people trying to ask if they have any kind of work at all, and nobody had any work. He came to point that he had to decide whether he was going to turn around and go back or if he was going to continue his journey, because it was already getting so dark that it would be hard to find his way home. So he decided to go on. He came to a town. He went to every house in the town and knocked and asked if he could find a place to be off the street for the night. And he was turned down every time anybody came to the door. They'd tell him, no, you can't stay here. So he got on his donkey and continued riding on out of town. He saw a tree out in the middle of a pasture, and so he went over there and he tied his donkey to the tree, got his rooster, which was his alarm clock. And unless you live around here, and there are some crazy roosters that cry all night long, so I don't know. But but then he put out his lantern and lit it so he could read his Holy Scrolls before he goes to sleep, and laid down. While he was reading his Holy Scrolls, a wind came along and blew out his flame on his lantern. And he said, well, this too must be for God, for good, because everything that had happened along the way, he said, this must be for God, because God is good, and these things all work for our good. So he then rolled out his bedroll and laid down, and he heard his rooster squawk out real loud, and he realized that a mountain lion had come through and killed his rooster. And he said, well, this has got to be for good, because all these things work together for God, for good, for those that are called according to his purposes. It's the same teaching that Rabbi gave. And then his horse went down. He heard him neigh, and boom, down on the ground, he was out. He said, well, this too must be for good. So he rolled over and he tried to get some sleep, but he was woken in the middle of the night with the horses of a number of riders that came out into the field out there to that tree. And he thought to himself, oh no, now I'm going to really be dead for sure. And they had a little conversation with themselves and said, you know, there was a nice town over here a little further down. Let's go down there and see what we can do. And they said, okay. So they took off on their horses and went into the next town. So the young Rabbi got up from his sleep and looked around at the devastation and took the food belongings that he could carry and loaded them on his own back and starts walking down the road. He gets to the town where the town had been burnt to the ground. And so he knew then that because these banditos were so mean and so ruthless, God was protecting his life by killing the rooster. What if that rooster had squawked out in the night while he was sleeping? Mm-hmm. And the horse too. What if he had stirred around and they heard that horse? It would have meant the end of his life. And then, now that he's out there in hindsight looking at this city, he knew that they were saving his life by not allowing him to sleep there. And so the general principle is that God always knows what he's doing, but we don't.
Right. That's why he turned out his light too.
But I have an interesting question for you.
Mm-hmm.
What if they had opened their doors to this man and let him sleep there? Would their fate have turned out differently? It's hard to say.
Yep.
And things also may have come to fruition.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, that's a nice little story to add on to what you were saying, and talk about Joseph again, and add a little bit to Jeff Green's picture of what he was presenting. So it's really good to have Bible studies like this where we can all kind of bat things back and forth and maybe learn a little more.
Absolutely.
Yes, my love.
I may have missed this earlier, but there was a question, excuse me, from Rabbi John, or more like a comment. After Dinah was defiled by Shechem, when she became the Canaanite woman. And I know we were discussing genealogy earlier and about how bloodlines can be affected.
So in other words, he's saying is this reference over here, Yochanan is either saying or asking to my mom's question that Canaanite woman, would that have been Dinah?
It could have been.
No.
No, she became a Canaanite because she was defiled.
Is that how they looked at that back then?
Is that
I don't know. Quite possibly.
I can't say, Rabbi. I wasn't there to witness it.
Really?
This says the sons of Simeon, his sons. His son Shoal, was the son of a Canaanitish woman.
Which means he wouldn't have married Dinah.
No, it was not Dinah.
Okay, so it wouldn't have been Dinah.
So it was one of Simeon's sons.
So
Okay.
yeah, if we were to keep the context of that would fascinating. There's a delay on the iPad, isn't there?
You just noticed that.
What happened? What was that? I missed it.
There we go.
Okay, you cut up.
Hey, I like that verse in Proverbs 16:33. The lot is cast into the lap, but the decision is wholly of the Lord. Even the events that seem accidental are really ordered by Him.
Right. I have to affirm that.
So in summary of wrapping up, there is a eventful meeting between Yaakov, Israel, with Pharaoh, and to end this week's Torah Parshat, and how they're assigned the territory of Goshen, and how it is mentioned that the Egyptians, I guess the key word is they have a certain, I guess they could say, preference to how they conduct themselves when it comes to shepherds and management of
I'm a
animals.
little confused some of that was missed.
Well, that is still something I actually see today. City folk who appreciate the farmers, but wouldn't want to be near one if their life depended on it. As that sort of, it's dirty and smelly and their physical labor and towing the land.
Country hicks.
Yeah. And so,
Translate.
yeah. So, that's about it. I don't see anything else hidden here. At least not in the English. I don't know if in the Hebrew. I mean, Israel then lived in the land of Egypt 17 more years. He was 130 when he met with Pharaoh and came in to the land of Egypt. So he, as we see in the next Torah Parshat, got to live another 17 good years, 5 of which would have been the famine, but still, that's 12 good years outside of the famine with family and enjoying a good life, I guess, out there in Egypt before his time comes to pass away here. 12 years after, so 17 minus 5, 12. And 12 disciples, make whatever connection you want out of that.
So
Okay.
what does it say in that Bible? No, I'm asking you. Whoa. So what does it say in 46 when he's telling the brothers how to address Pharaoh's question is, what is your occupation?
Again, that goes back to what I was referencing because it was important. It was important. As there was a comment made, it was important to reference these city hicks. Yeah, I knew that wasn't gonna come out right. These individuals in Egypt who have a certain mindset about the preservation of their status, their roles, so they don't need to be shifted.
It was an abomination to Egyptians. Okay. Well, for every shepherd is an abomination to the Egyptians. So when Pharaoh comes to ask what is occupation, this is what I understand. So Joseph had just told the brothers to say that you are, your occupations are supposed to be keepers of livestock, and the brothers say we're shepherds, when shepherds are supposed to be an abomination. So was that a boo-boo? Was that a mistake?
Well, there are no mistakes for God.
Well, was it put down in the Bible as a mistake? Is it a mistake?
No, it's
writer
not a
over?
mistake.
Well, he told them specifically not to say shepherds, but they say they're shepherds. When
You're
he
going to
told
have
them-
to ask Moses that when you stand before him, you know. Did you make a mistake when you were writing that down?
I'm gonna have to because I'm just like it's sort of contradicting each. I mean,
Yeah,
yep,
it sounds contradictory anyway, doesn't it?
yeah.
Well, I've gone about as far as I can go for tonight. I don't think I can handle much more than that. So, so I think we'll call this Bible study complete for tonight. I'm happy that Jay Newcomb and Jeff Green and all were able to show up, and whoever
Rabbi
else was
John.
watching. Rabbi Yochanan, you missed a good Bible study. Well, anyway, but I guess you didn't miss too much of it. But anyway, we're good to go. I think we're ready for our Torah class for next Shabbat, and maybe we can shake a few people up with it or something. I don't know.
All right, well, it is also the last one.
Of
Genesis.
yeah.
Oh, so it's gonna be Genesis next week too.
Next week is the last one
I'm
of
sorry, I
of
scared
Genesis.
y'all for a moment.
The last
folks.
of Genesis.
Next week is the last one.
Oh, right. Okay.
No need to play the song "Freak Out," okay?
We're going to get into a really good discussion when we hit Genesis 49 verses 9 and 10.
Yeah.
Yes. And Rabbi,
Yes, my love.
may I just share a quick comment? And this
Who?
is may I share a quick comment
Yeah.
from the chat room just for everybody's own time? Jeffrey Green would like to share that Psalms 105 verse 16 to 23 and Acts chapter 7, 9 through 14
Yeah, I already.
are very good principles
Right.
that can be derived from this.
Yeah, I mentioned 7, 9 through
Okay.
15 of Acts. But
Well,
what
that's
was the
good.
song?
Psalms
I love 104.
105 chapter 105 verse 16 through 23. And that's for our own time. I know we got to
Well,
go.
y'all didn't know we had about probably 6 or 7 more people studying with us tonight than what are in this room. So,
He called.
so we could very easily double this class size.
So here's the reference psalm.
Boy, he's still going, boy.
Shane, what number is it?
Psalm 105, starting at verse 16. He called down the famine on the land. And he mentions Joseph. So yes, Psalm 105, starting at 16, is referencing where we're reading this week. No.
Well, we got a nice rabbi's class where I teach a class on Saturday morning on Bible issues, and if you would like to join in with us, you'd be more than welcome. And we talk about controversial issues in that class, and it's open for discussion, so please feel free to join us. And then at 11 o'clock is our morning service. On Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. we have another Bible study, so you please plan to join us for all of those. I guess I could therefore say, like Mr. Rogers, it's a lovely day in the neighborhood.
You may eat me.
Won't you be my neighbor? Lee, you should have seen the class I taught that was like, it was, the song is Too Late Baby Now, it's too late, though we really did try to make it. Well, I was using that as my springboard to talk about those that think God is just too late, But he's never too late because he's past time and space continuum.
I think that was our number one most popular.
That thing, we had over 3,000 viewers of that class online.
That struck a chord with a lot of people.
Yep. We had a lot of fun on that one.
That one in that 3D.
No.
Yeah, and then the number 2.
Well, thank you for joining us this evening for a delightful study in the Torah Parshat, the Parashat, and the Haftorah. We hope that you enjoyed it and have learned something that God has shared with you. We look forward to seeing you again this Shabbat at 10 a.m. for our Bible Studies Issues class, followed by our 11 a.m. main service with worship, liturgy, Torah, and a service. And the following week, we'll have another Torah study. We hope that you'll join us again. In the meantime, lahitraot and shalom, shalom.